Call the meeting to order. If you would, please rise. I'm going to call on Chaplain Mike Clark to come forward for the invocation. Mr. Clark is with Samaritan's Purse, which has done just a fantastic job in our community. And Mr. Clark, we appreciate it.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we first and foremost want to recognize you for your sovereign leadership. And Father, we want to acknowledge every man and woman behind this counter tonight, Lord, for your sovereign leadership. We pray, Lord, that each and everything that's done in this house tonight, Lord, may it be pleasing to you. May you grant them wisdom as they discuss each topic. And may everything that's said be glory to you. And Father, we give you our praise tonight in Jesus' name.
Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Okay, at this time, I'm going to call on Commissioner Marshall to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll move forward now with the minutes. Commissioners, inside your packet, you'll have your minutes of October the 22nd. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections to those minutes, I'll entertain a motion to have the minutes approved.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor of the motion signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 5A is our one appointment, actually two appointments. This is to the Greater Lowndes Planning Commission. Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, Commissioners. The term that is currently held by Mr. Ed Hightower is expiring. Mr. Hightower has expressed a desire to be reappointed. And then we have a vacant seat that was previously held by Ms. Vicki Biles. Ms. Biles has moved out of the area. Candidates, as they have submitted for your consideration, are Mr. Calvin Graham, Mr. Bryce Evans, and Mr. Blake Robinson. They have all expressed a desire in being appointed.
Good. All right, we'll take the seat for Mr. Ed Hightower first. Are there any nominations?
Nominate Mr. Ed Hightower for reappointment.
Okay, we have Mr. Ed Hightower nominated. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll close the nominations, and Mr. Ed Hightower will be reappointed by acclamation. All right, the next seat, do we have any?
Calvin Graham.
Mr. Calvin Graham? All right, we have Mr. Calvin Graham. Are there any other nominations? All right, hearing none, we'll close the nominations, and Mr. Calvin Graham will be appointed by acclamation. All right, we'll now move to our public hearing items, and our first item is the text amendment 2024-03. This is to the ULDC. Mr. Dillard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, Commissioners. Myself and Mr. Davenport will be presenting a little bit tonight. As you heard this morning, the two main focuses of the text amendment are access or lot count on a single point of entry into a subdivision and the addition of a tree bank. Since this morning, staff's also looked at the potable water system requirements, requiring new or expanding private water systems to have a permanent on-site generator-based backup power. This is in the packet that's there in front of you. The tree bank has been expanded to include not just oak trees, but oak, bay, magnolia, or cypress trees measuring 8 inches DBH, or any tree over 24 inches DBH, with the exclusion of pine and pecan trees. Again, that's just for the tree bank, not for agricultural purposes, but for commercial purposes to help mitigate any development to keep Lowndes green. Those are the two main focuses in here. Those amendments are there in your packet in strike-through underline format. You can see the lot count we have prepared based on your direction is no more than 80 lots on a single point of ingress and egress. And after careful review, staff still recommends approval of these conditions. Mr. Davenport can speak a little further.
Thank you, J.D.
Judge.
Really, just to catch y'all up, the highlights are what we are proposing before you. This is the same draft that we had this morning, plus those highlights. All those highlights are reflected in the full copy next to the county clerk. It is in the room. We're happy to answer or address any concerns that you may have, but pending your consideration, we do believe it's ready for you. From an input standpoint, we did have Mrs. Quarterman call this afternoon asking to be updated based on our presentation this morning and our conference at the TRC. We did send her the draft document. I believe they've looked at it, and I think their concerns are just the timing within the process for public comment, and also they had a concern about the pecan trees being added to the exempt list. So beyond that, we think they're justified, but if you want to go further, we're willing. We have the document in the room, but again, pending your consideration, we believe it's ready for it.
Okay. All right, commissioners, any questions? I think we've had a little bit of discussion about this, so if you have any questions, now is your opportunity.
I guess the one I had was regarding the private water systems. That the word expansions also includes existing system that they choose to upgrade, I'm taking.
Yes, sir. So expansion, if you add a tap, we want to be now involved with you in making sure that that system reflects these standards. So we have a very strict line on purpose to make sure if they go to expand, then we now are at the table requiring the generator and the generator-based backup.
Okay.
So that would be, so it would be a requirement on any new systems. And then are we agreeing that we're gonna go look back at the existing systems that are already in place and see what we may do to ensure that those citizens are taken care of in a time of need too?
That's the direction that staff's waiting on. Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay.
So right now, we're currently addressing the new systems moving forward. But we all know that we're going to have to address these current systems as well with the issues that specifically out of Hurricane Helene, how they came up with the fact that a lot of folks just didn't have any water because of no power to their systems.
Okay, so let's make the assumption we're talking about a maximum of 80 lots in a one entrance development.
Yes, sir.
So talk to me a little bit about the conditions and how those will apply, because I don't want to speak for any other commissioner, but I think there was a little bit of confusion about, are those conditions requirements at the 80 lot level?
Yes, sir.
Or are they, because they were noted as
Policy goals.
proposed. So some of them conflict with one another, such as, I think the 10-foot side yard setbacks, not allowed, but if it is allowed, then
Yes, sir.
you've got to have no fences and air
If-
conditioning units and so forth, so.
The goals that the commissioner's talking about are on page 3 of that access amendment, if you want to look at them. Excuse me, Commissioner, there are 11. The way we anticipate this working is if the commission moves forward, staff would take these 11, get them into a format that we believe is the ones that we want, let the county manager review those, let her make sure she wants these as policy goals, and then give those to the development community, those who are actually designing these subdivisions. So if you had an 80-lot subdivision that, for example, was 1.5 miles away from county water, we anticipate connection to county water to be a preference on here, but 1.5 miles is obviously a very, very long distance, an unreasonable connection requirement for that water system. So our recommendation to the TRC level will be the county manager that we take that policy goal and we do not require that for that development. And that development moves on with other policy goals, but that one would just be struck. We don't require a variance for that. We don't require a rezoning condition. It will be something that with the county manager's backing, we would have the ability to not require. And each subdivision, depending on their situation, will be analyzed on that case-by-case basis. But we expect those policy goals, which this is the most current draft I can give you, but because this is new, we wanted to put something down. But ultimately, yes, sir, we realize that before we give it to our supervisor, we need to make sure these are cleaned up and paired up to reflect no conflicts between what we do and do not recommend. But that is how we anticipate that this would work, is for an 80-lot subdivision, we would analyze it based on these conditions, and then pending on the TRC's stake and the county manager's stake, we would appropriately address or not address that. If an applicant was aggravated, did not agree with us, they can challenge our interpretation to the Board of Appeals, which is something they can always do as administrative official. So they still have an avenue, but with this new process, we just did not believe putting them in the code as a variance. We thought that would be too cumbersome. And so this is where we felt like we had a place that would be a helpful start.
Okay. Now, for me, to clarify it in my mind, we're talking about the 80 lots, one point of ingress and egress. And then you mentioned if we were, for example, a mile and a half away from county water, wouldn't the water issue and the sewer issue be addressed through the rezoning of lot sizes rather than necessarily saying that if it's a number of lots? I mean, does that make sense? I mean, typically, we're looking at rezoning cases, and I know what we have done in the past, and we have a concern about high-density lots in a more rural setting where we know that we're not going to be able to get utility services to.
Yes, sir.
Then we're setting ourselves up, basically, if we're looking at it from that standpoint, it appears to me, for more private water systems.
This doesn't change our 1,000-foot lot connection requirement that we have on the books. This does not change that. So any subdivision within 1,000 feet would still be a connection requirement. That does not change this. What we get into is we had to try to accommodate for both the urban and the rural sections of the county.
Right.
And this is where we arrived at. It's something that staff could do a case-by-case analysis because we recognize unless you double the rules and have one set for water sewer and one set for well septic, that would be a solution to that, but we didn't choose that path. We chose administrative case-by-case versus a set of rules for water sewer and a set of rules for well septic.
Okay. I mean, I can live with it. My concern is it's just overburdening to a certain degree staff on having to make some of these decisions when really the decision, to me, is based on a zoning decision and how you apply that piece of property and the proper zoning to it that wouldn't necessarily, you could still have a subdivision that's got 1 to 1.5 to 2 acre lots and still have 80 parcels in it.
Yes, sir. And Mr. Chairman, the zoning is still going to control the lot size. So if you have a R1 zoning, you're still going to have a 1 acre lot minimum. This
right.
doesn't exempt you from that. The only time you're getting into that conversation is if really you do a PD and it's up to the commission to set that lot size.
That's right.
But
Okay.
R21 is still going to have a half acre lot size. So if you had a conflict with this 15,000 square foot goal and you have R21 zoning, that's not on your radar because you can only have half an acre that's allowed.
Right, but if we're 1.5 miles away from our services, our utilities, and then we approve R21 lots,
Yes, sir.
then the only way you're gonna serve it with water is with a private system.
Sir, you're right. You're right.
That's kind of what I'm trying to say here. I mean, we can look at it, I mean, we've had these discussions and set precedents from the standpoint that we're very, very cautious about these high-density lots in a more rural setting, and we're looking for larger properties, larger lots, which to me would be 1 acre lots, which would allow you then to have
Sure.
Well and
well
septic.
and septic.
That's right,
Yep.
that's right. Well, and the current environment, as Jason said, doesn't change. I mean, the PD that could happen 1.5 miles from our current services, that could happen now without this update. This just gives us an opportunity to have a better conversation and be able to, from a policy goal situation, talk about the boulevard approach. And I think that's really where we came to from a staff's recommendation is swapping the density for and trying to help with the 2 points of ingress and egress. And I think as we discussed this morning, we've all seen through the weather that we've experienced over the last year how important it is to try to have those 2 points of ingress and egress. Now, with the boulevard, they're a lot closer together than public safety would like, obviously, because some of the trees that we've had go down are large enough that they could have gone down across an entire boulevard.
Sure,
But it
yeah.
still gives that opportunity, like what we saw with Helene, where someone cuts the top out of the tree, moves what they can move, and then we've at least got one lane open. And I think that's that's something as far as that access goes that was a big part of the public safety conversation, which is really what's driving all of
Okay.
this.
But I guess what I'm saying is I don't necessarily agree with all the, what I'm calling conditions.
Yes, sir.
Those 11 points. And I mean, I don't think staff even completely agreed
We
with
do
all
not.
of those points, and we're all in unison. And I don't think that that a subdivision can be a one-size-fits-all. But I also understand that we need a guiding document, the ULDC, that helps, that helps cull some of these new developments that are coming about. So I think the commission was just concerned that, are these conditions that will apply to every applicant, or is there some discretion left for the board and the manager?
Absolutely discretion.
And keep in mind also, I mean, we're revisiting the ULDC now, but we can do that at any point in time that you choose to do that.
Yes, sir.
If something, it does not work just like we anticipate it to, then we can come back and make adjustments.
The biggest thing this does is it takes an opportunity for, with one interest, to have 24 houses to 80 houses.
That's correct.
That's what this does, really.
That was the main goal of what
The
we're
oth-
trying to.
The other part of this is, I mean, right now you have zero chance to build more than 24 houses. If I think it opens it up cautiously, I believe. And so, anyway.
Well, I commend JD and Jason both, and under the manager's leadership on, I know it took a little longer, and we were all being a little impatient, but thank you for taking the time to do it right and present us with something that we can all feel good about, and ultimately that benefits the community, I think. So,
Sir, we had a lot of help, and I'm thankful. Thank you for your patience. It took us a while to figure out how to strike what we felt like was the right balance to recommend to you.
Okay. All right. Any other questions, commissioners, at this point? All right, I want to, I'll tell you what, since this is a public hearing item, let's take just a break, just a minute, because I really failed. Ashley Ty's got a special guest that he would like to introduce. Take a minute, so if we can, so we don't hold these fine folks up anymore, let Ashley go ahead and do it, and then we'll pick back up and move into the public hearing portion of this agenda item.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. We've got Jacob Rutz with Samaritan's Purse. He's going to come up. Samaritan's Purse, as you know, has, during Adalia, they were here for several months. They're back again. Jacob spent so much time here, I think he could claim residency if he wanted to. But we are very appreciative of all the work they've been doing. We're appreciative of every volunteer, but if you look at it on a scale, just in the sheer number of volunteers, the number of volunteer hours, the number of people they've assisted, Samaritan's Purse far and away has made a substantial impact in our community. And like I said, unfortunately, they've done that twice. But we're very grateful to have them. To be quite honest, I know we would find a way, but if they were not here, I don't know how we would accomplish the mission that they're taking on for us. And their mission is not just, it's more than just cutting up trees and moving them to the road. They also minister to the people. They love on our citizens, and take care of some of their spiritual and their mental health needs, in addition to some of the physical needs they have out there in the community. So wanted to invite Jacob, number one, to give y'all the opportunity to meet him and see what a fine fellow he is, and thank them for what they're doing. But also, he's going to give you a little update on kind of what they've been doing, is just kind of give you some perspective on what's going on in the community.
Okay? Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I actually am paying Georgia taxes right now being here, so I basically am claiming residency. But yes, we've been here since the day after the storm. We have been writing work orders and will continue to write work orders, especially after this last week of rain. We've seen a lot of more TARP requests come in, so we are continuing to accept those as well. I think we have about 210 open TARP requests at this moment. Overall, we have written 2,836 requests for work. We have completed about 571 currently, and we have closed others because of other organizations here, because of homeowners getting the work done themselves. And we are standing at 1,453 remaining work orders open. At this time, just a couple days ago, we did extend our time here to January 25th. So we will continue to be here until then, at the very least. If we need to extend further, we do have that ability. And in terms of the volunteer numbers, we're averaging about 120 to 150 volunteers a day on Monday through Saturday, for a total of 1,504 unique volunteers since we've been here. That's people that come in overnight, people that serve locally as well, so about 1,500, for a total of 34,108 hours. That is mostly in Lowndes County, but also in the surrounding counties as well. We have obviously been keeping track of all of those volunteer hours and intend to turn them in to the county at the end of our time here. And again, we are still taking work orders. I know we get a lot of questions from homeowners, from people in the community that are still looking for assistance that may or may not think we're open and available, but we are. So at Morningside Baptist, we do still continue to take work orders, and we'll continue on plan on continue on taking them until we finish up here. But yeah, that is.
For perspective, so
Yes.
he told you how many work orders they've got now. One of the things that stuck out to me is tell them how many you had there in Adelia,
Last year, we wrote 656.
and how many did you write this year again?
Right now, we're at 2,836, so a couple more than
Tells
last
you
year.
the magnitude, what we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And I just want to thank you guys. Your community has really just opened their doors to us. We feel like we're home. Unfortunately, we're used to being here at this point, but it is just great being here, a great place to have to be for a couple of months to help you guys out and to just be part of the community and uplift each other. And it's really just awesome to be here. Not great circumstances, but I do plan on coming back for a vacation, hopefully not with any business purposes.
Well, we certainly appreciate everything that Samaritan's Purse has done in this community. Not only Idalia, but Helene as well. And now we're talking about the localized flooding that we've had. You still have, you know, as you say, you're still getting calls. And that's encouraging. And again, we have expressed to our citizens is that this is a long process of cleaning up, getting repairs made, getting folks to where they can at least get back in their homes, tarping and all that. So we're just asking for their patience and their understanding on this process. And again, we know we're so blessed to have folks like you and Samaritan's Purse in our community that's helping so many citizens that just really, you can't plan this. This is not a budget item that you put in your household budget to be planning for the type of disasters that we had. And so again, when those things happen, then it's folks like you and others, to be honest with you, that come into a community, work hard, honest, good Christian folks that's ready to do the right thing for our citizens in our community. So again, thank you is from us to you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was definitely worth a little break, wasn't it?
Goosebumps.
All right, Commissioners, you heard from Mr. Dillard and Mr. Davenport on agenda item 6A. Are there any other questions or comments? If not, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. None? All right. All right, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please. Yes, ma'am, your camera's running. You can go ahead and come on.
Good evening, my name is Gretchen Quarterman. I live at 6565 Quarterman Road. My mailing address is 3338 Country Club Road, number L336. I first of all want to say thank you to JD and Jason for sending us these little 4 pages that we got. It was very helpful. And I also want to say thank you for having a public hearing, because now that changes to the ULDC don't go to the Planning Commission, this is the only chance that citizens have to say anything about changes, and I appreciate you hearing me this evening. You know that I'm an opponent to private well systems since the get-go, and every time that the county has to bail one out, it's on the taxpayers of the county to fix up Lake Lcboc, or fix up Spring, whatever that one was, or, anyway, I'm not keen on those private wells. So I would be happy if we never had another private well, ever. In the vocabulary that you've used here, you said, the permanent on-site generator-based backup power is required to maintain and have the capability to consistently serve the entire system. Consistent means to do the same thing every time you do it. Consistently, the same thing every time you do it. I think the word you want to choose there is continuously, which means that you're doing it all the time. I could consistently put a generator at the, poor Quarterman Crossing right by me. They were out of water all those days. I could have it on 12 hours and off 12 hours, and that would be consistent. It wouldn't be continuous. I think the word you want to choose is continuous. My mother was an English teacher. I'm sort of horrified to hear that we might have subdivisions of 80 lots with a private well. That's horrifying to me. On the tree bank, that whole tree bank thing is new, right? All right, and right now there's rules about if you cut down a specimen tree, you have to put it back with a certain amount of stuff. We've had, I think somebody said 40,000 trees come down in the city alone, so we're sort of short on trees right now. And we're changing streetscaping to landscaping. I like that change a lot because streetscape implies that you're on the street side. Landscape is the whole lot. And that the change enterprise account to a fund. Does a fund mean it goes in the general fund? What does a fund mean? So I'm a little unclear on that wording there. I know what an enterprise account is. An enterprise account is the money from this stuff. Developers pay money for a thing, or citizens pay money for a thing, like street lighting, and then money comes out of that to pay that thing. With this tree thing, it's not clear to me how that money is going to be kept and accounted. So I'd rather have an enterprise account rather than fund. Fund is kind of sketchy. Then on the 80 lots, I didn't get the list of 11 goals either. That wasn't in the stuff I got, but that's okay. Questions regarding the proposed policy goals. The policy goals are not conditions and would not require variance. I get that. They would be enforced on a case-by-case basis for each applicable subdivision that is choosing to expand. They would be enforced through cooperation with the county manager. Okay, did we switch to a monarchy here, that the county manager gets to say yes or no, or will there be some commission involvement in we made this, here, somebody wants to make these 80 lots, and the county manager, whoever he or she is, says, okay, and you can have a private well, or does the commission get to, I think this is unclear about what the elected body's role is. And the TRC, it goes on to say, TRC, after the analysis of the TRC is staff, so they're going to do what the boss wants. At least that's been my experience since I've been paying attention. I do like that it gave an explicit list of grandfathered subdivisions that could expand, some of those off of Cat Creek, and I was good with that. Anyway, we didn't have very much time to look at this. We got this afternoon after 2 o'clock. Other citizens, okay, and the stakeholders. I don't know how much feedback you got from the chamber or the home builders and all of that. Did they see this final? Because Jason said this morning that they were working on it over the week. Have they received that? Did they get it? Did you get any feedback, or did you send it out and you got nothing? As Jason correctly said, I have concerns about the process and the timing. But but I'm going to guess that probably nobody but me actually cares, until their house goes underwater. And Chadwick subdivision was approved because somebody bought wetlands credits to make perimeter road the way it is, and now all those people out there have houses that were flooded. Or ditto, soon-to-be Valdell Estates, the lowest of those lots. That couldn't have been 3 years ago that we said, no, Army Corps says that isn't wetlands. Wetlands is where the water runs to, whether we like to say it's wetlands or not, and we are very wet here. So I have general concerns about how we do planning and zoning. My specific comments you've now heard, and I would ask that you would table this until you can figure out exactly what, don't rush. There's no reason ever to rush. Thank you.
All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this agenda item? All right, hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in support of this agenda item? Anyone that would like to speak in support? All right, hearing none, at this time, I'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the ULDC changes presented by staff with the 80 lot. I think everything else was pretty clear, but using the 80 lot.
Okay. All right, we have a motion then to approve the ULDC amendments as presented by staff, which would include the 80 lots per point of ingress and egress.
Second.
To include updating the document in the room as far as the
What you're moving to be approved is the November 12th meeting that incorporates all of the proposals.
You'll
So,
put that
yeah.
in the form of the motion.
So the November 12th changes.
Okay.
Is what we're approving.
The entire revised.
The entire revised ULDC November 12th change,
Which is currently in the room.
which is currently in the room.
Okay. So
That's
we
my
have a
motion.
motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do I have a second? Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Commissioners. All right, we'll now move on to agenda item 6B, and this is REZ 2024-15, Lochwin Ltd., Loch Laurel Road and Carroll Ulmer Road. This involves 62 acres. It is currently RA, and the request is for R1 and RA, and it will be served with well and septic. Mr. Dillard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, Commissioners, this request involves the 62 acres highlighted here. In the middle, it encompasses 2 parcels, which total roughly 150 acres, more or less. But again, they are only requesting 62 acres of that be requested for R1 zoning. You'll note the R1 zoning to the north, the R10, which is actually sized approximately for R1 lots, so just consideration there. You also noted the R1 zoning a little to the south. But again, these are the 2 lots in question. It is within the rural residential character area, and it's also within the urban service area, which does recommend for R1 zoning. And you will note that this property does contain some wetlands as well as in a groundwater recharge area, requiring that the minimum lot size be 1.25 acres in order to accommodate the said well and septic. So again, here is that 62 acres more or less laid out with a conceptual site plan. This is currently showing approximately 41 lots. As you've just amended the ULDC, going forward, this connection to Buckeye Drive, while it shows proposed, is no longer a requirement, but it is shown just again as a conceptual layout here. So based on the TRC's analysis, looking at the neighboring land uses, lot sizes, lack of available utilities, and the groundwater recharge area, staff recommended R1 zoning as depicted on the exhibit here, with the remainder of Track 2 depicted there to remain RA. At the Planning Commission meeting, several of the neighbors voiced concerns about potential traffic from that proposed interconnection, as we just talked about, potential for stormwater and pollution runoff, as well as potential trespassing from the adjoining properties. And again, they ultimately voted 8-0 to recommend approval of the request for R1 and RA zoning.
Any questions for Mr. Dillard?
Potential trespassing is a first for me. concerns about these residents trespassing on adjacent neighbors?
That was the concern, young boys being young boys.
Probably just a play on words. We'll find out, I'm sure.
JD, I was just, had a question in regards to the layout. The layout itself don't have to be, is not like something in stone, is it? I'm just concerned about the wetlands and and the actual lots that I see that are within the wetlands. And I know we're saying we don't want to create another Chadwick Place. or any of
This
that
is
kind of
not a
stuff.
PD, so they're not held to that design.
No, sir, they are not. This is just a conceptual layout based on the ULDC, which only required 24 lots and 2 points of ingress and egress. This has not gone through official staff review or evaluation. The wetlands there have not been evaluated or delineated, I believe, by an engineer. And if they were proposed to be filled in any way, shape, form, that would have to come from the Army Corps of Engineers. So this is just a conceptual layout of what a 1.25 acre lot subdivision on 62 acres could more or less look like. I believe this layout will change somewhat to, again, to mitigate some of those wetlands, because public health, having well and septic regulations, would have to review this as well. So I think you have a generally good idea of a layout, but this is not a final binding layout.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. We'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Bruce Smith. I live at 2941 Loch Laurel Road. I actually live on the property to the south and to the east of this. It's Loch Laurel. It's old family property, been in the family since the late 1800s, and for the most part has remained natural. We've intentionally kept it very natural, a little under 200-acre lake. So there's a significant wetland component to the development or adjacent to the development. I currently live on the property, and I don't necessarily oppose the zoning request change, but I would ask the commissioners to consider two conditions to the approval of the zoning change. One, I would ask that they require some form of environmental impact study. I understand that some developments of a certain size automatically trigger that. I believe this one, I'm not sure, it may be under that trigger. So I would just like to, because of the proximity to a significant wetland on our property, like to maybe understand a little bit more about the impact, environmental impact of the development. So I'd like to ask the commissioners to possibly put a condition on the approval to require some form of an environmental impact study. And then the second condition that I had requested at the commission meeting was for the developer to add a fence to the property line adjacent to the Loch Laurel property. Again, we keep our property very natural. It is desirable for maybe possibly young kids to come and play on it. I'm a little concerned about liability. We have a lot of wild animals on the property, a lot of water, and just would like to maybe see a fence there just to protect some of the young kids that may attempt to wander onto our property.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. All right, is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
I'm Mickey Burns. I live at 3010 Loch Laurel Road. I also live on the lake like Mr. Smith. And I don't want to repeat, what he said, but I do want to underscore what we feel is the need for an environmental impact assessment to be conditional on the rezoning approval. It's my understanding that this is typically done whenever a land development project is this close to a large water body or wetlands areas. And there's like a 170-acre lake as well as 2 other wetland areas in that property to be rezoned. So we would just ask the commission to please make a condition on the rezoning that an environmental impact assessment be conducted and submitted to the Georgia Environmental Division for approval. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, anyone else who would like to speak in opposition? Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Manager,
Commissioner. David Adams, 2826 Airleaf Drive. And my residence is actually on opposite of where the proposed subdivision is going to be. So I have two concerns. First concern is there was a proposal that a road be cut through Buckeye, and that we're asking that you deny that because our subdivision is small, it's got big lots, we don't have any sidewalks, so our residents normally walk that neighborhood, so that's gonna put a lot of traffic on that road, as well as a lot, 60, 70 more cars each day. So the safety concern and the number of cars is what we're mainly concerned about. Second concern, like I said, my property actually is on the opposite side, and just like right now, part of it is underwater because there's no water flowing out. And that's into that subdivision because there's a small culvert there, and I know some of the residents have been digging it out because we've had some beaver problems, so the water is still up. And so my concern is if you build houses because behind one of the residents that lives on Buckeye, water normally flows into that area. So if you put houses there, my concern is where's that water gonna go? And my answer to that is it's coming back on my property. And that is a major concern of mine. So those are the two things that I'm concerned about.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All right, I'll ask for one more. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Yep, okay, this would be the last one in opposition. Come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Caleb Reed, I live at 2910 Buckeye Drive. I live on the kind of the north side of the proposed new subdivision, and just to reiterate what David said was a big concern of mine is the traffic on Buckeye Drive. I have two young children currently. We're able to go out onto the street and ride bikes and exercise and stuff like that out there, and there's very little traffic coming in and out. If that road were to be opened up, I don't know how much it would be, but it would greatly increase the number of vehicles that travel there. The second is the water issue that we've got from the pond or swamp there. It varies on the level. The higher it gets, the more it pushes onto our properties, pushes up into the ditches, and that's just not something that a parent wants, to have more water pushing up to the house where the children are going to be. So I appreciate you.
Thanks, sir. All right, is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in support of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in support? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it back over to you for your consideration.
Mr. Dillard, on a development this size with water issues and all, isn't there an EPA impact study automatically?
There's an analysis that has to be done by the developer's engineer to manage all the stormwater. All that water has to be accounted for and kept on the property. It cannot be pushed to adjacent properties. Again, I'm not a fully engineer, but I do know that much. Again, any impacts to those wetland would have to be mitigated either through wetland credits or approved by the Army Corps of Engineers to do so. So again, there's a third-party impact. They would have to prove otherwise, but again, I don't believe this property has been fully evaluated by an engineer to discuss all of those concerns at this time. This is simply just a rezoning request for slightly smaller than 2.5 acre lots as it stands.
Okay.
And again, based on the proposal and the approval of the text amendment of 80 lots, there is no requirement at this time for a connection to Buckeye Drive.
Right.
That, again, I know that was shown, but it is not a requirement based on your just previous action, so.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve this application, this request, excluding Buckeye Drive as a point of ingress and egress.
Okay.
Approve it as presented.
Okay. All right, we have a motion then to approve as presented with the with the exclusion of the tie-in to Buckeye Drive.
Yes, sir.
Would eliminate that
Yes, sir.
requirement.
Second.
All right, so we have that as a motion. Do I get a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign? Aye. All right, that's 4-1. Okay, motion carries. All right, we'll move on now to agenda item 6C, and that will be REZ 2024-17. This is the Evans property. It is located at 4836 Bemis Road. This includes 1.4 acres. It's currently R1. The request is for CH, and it will have county utilities. Mr. Dillon.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As stated, 1.4 acres here along Bemis Road is being requested to go to commercial highway zoning from its current residential. It is within the urban service area, the Bemis corridor overlay, and the neighborhood activity center character area, which do recommend commercial highway zoning as appropriate. You'll note here that there are no wetlands on the property or any groundwater recharge to be concerned with, and county utilities are available. This is the current aerial of the property from just a little bit of a month ago. You see the two mobile homes that were on the property. The northern one has been removed. The southern one is abandoned. The TRC did analyze the request and the standards governing the exercise of zoning powers, considering the neighboring land uses, zoning patterns, and the availability of county utilities, and therefore recommended approval of the request. And at the Planning Commission meeting in October, no one spoke in favor or opposition to the request, and therefore they voted unanimously 8-0 to recommend approval for commercial highway zoning.
Any questions for Mr. Dillard? All right, we'll move into the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in support of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in support? Hearing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve the request? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. We'll now move to agenda item 6D, and this is the basic decorative street lighting districts that includes Valdell Estates Phases 1 through 3, as well as Quarterman Estates Phase 5, Hamilton Green, and Bemis Springs. Mr. Dillard.
Yes, sir. The aforementioned subdivisions are proposing to add a total of 71 lots from phases 1 through 3 of Valdell, 29 lots of Quarterman Estates, 81 lots of Hamilton Green, and 97 lots of Bemis Town Springs development into our basic decorative street lighting. Staff has verified that the petitions before you are ready for your consideration. They have been advertised and tested for financial solvency of the addition. The current basic decorative street lighting district is $61.50 per lot per year, and staff recommends adding the aforementioned lots through the approval of the attached amendments to the current street lighting ordinance.
Any questions from Mr. Dillard? Okay, hearing none, we'll go to the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in support of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in support? Okay, hearing none, I'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it back over to you for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, we'll now move to agenda item 6E, and this is a beer and wine license for Dominic Joseph Sacco of Uncle Carlos Gelato LLC. This is at 2024 Lakes Boulevard in Lake Park. Ms. Black?
Yes, sir, thank you. Again, this is for Mr. Dominic Sacco of Uncle Carlos Gelato. This is for beer and wine for consumption on premise. It is due to a change of ownership. Mr. Sacco's father was the previous owner, and he passed away recently.
Any questions for Ms. Black? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, public hearing portion. All right, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in favor? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting. Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you now for your consideration.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 6F is a beer, wine, and liquor license for Tony Taylor of Taylor Entertainment of Georgia, LLC, doing business as Twin Lakes Club and Grill, located at 1068 Lakes Boulevard in Lake Park. Ms. Black?
Yes, sir, thank you. Again, this is for Tony Taylor of Taylor Entertainment of Georgia, Twin Lakes Club and Grill. This is a new location for this establishment. As of this afternoon, all of the requirements for their license have not been met. So if you choose to move forward with that, we would say to do that contingent on completion of those.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Black? All right. We'll move forward with the public hearing portion of the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in opposition to this request? Anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak in favor of this request? Anyone that would like to speak in favor, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please. And if you don't mind, please remove your head cover. Thank you.
My name's Tony Taylor. I'm the owner. Many of you knew that I took over the old building of Rascals from my dad before he passed away, Roy Taylor. But we had changed the name of that from Rascals to Twin Lakes Club and Grill. We cleaned it up, made it a real nice family steakhouse, and things happened in the family, so we needed to move the restaurant, and I think we've got us a great location. All the neighbors have welcomed us in, such as the YMCA, and we want to open a family-oriented, fun restaurant similar to Wood Nickel to give Lake Park people another place to choose to go eat. We have big screen TVs around where you can watch the ball game. We have some games for the children. We have 3 pool tables, and there'll be no honky-tonk, no bands, no dance floor. And just a good place to go eat and hang out with your neighbors and your friends. And, you know, that's about the best. It's a very, very pretty place. So I think, unless y'all have questions for me. And I would, somebody made the comment, we are so close to finishing everything that needs. And I was just totally afraid that we were gonna have to get bumped to the next thing. So if y'all do decide to approve me, you know, we will make sure everything gets done with the inspector and all, okay? Because we're already approved with the state, and they were sitting there, you know, waiting on this to get approved. So, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor of this request? All right, hearing none, we'll close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and Commissioners, I'll turn it over to you for your consideration.
Motion to approve contingent on issuance of the certificate of occupancy.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the request contingent on the certificate of occupancy being
Issued.
issued, yes. That's what you said, yeah.
Second.
And we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, we'll move on now to agenda item 7A, and this is the UPS replacement at the Valdosta and Clyteville Public Safety Radio System tower sites. Ms. Davis, how are you?
Good evening. So this is for the replacement of the 2 UPS units at the Valdosta and Clyteville tower sites that are part of our public safety radio system. The total cost per unit is $36,051.56. That gives the overall total for both units $72,103.12. This is a budgeted item, and I'm not requesting any additional funds for that. The units are both currently over 22 years old, and they have really reached the end of life and no longer going to be supported with parts. And I was able to confirm that life expectancy is between 15 and 20 years with proper maintenance.
Thank you for
Yes, you're welcome.
Hoping for 30, but.
I
Any-
was
any
hoping for
questions
longer than
Ms.
that.
Davis?
What did you say the total cost was?
The total cost for both is $72,103.12.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you,
I
Ms.
see
Davis.
it, I see it down there now.
All right.
Thank you. All right, Commissioners, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Now, which one approved?
Second.
And you're second. Okay. We have a motion, we have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7B is the acceptance of infrastructure for Quarterman Estates Phase 5. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Quarterman Estate subdivision is located in the southern portion of Lowndes County off of Whitewater Road and includes 29 lots. Quarterman Estates LLC developed and has asked Lowndes County to accept the infrastructure. All construction, inspections, and paperwork are complete.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. McLeod?
You sure it's all good and complete, right?
Yes, sir.
All right, hearing none, then we will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7C is the FY 26-5311 Regional Transit Resolution. Mr. Dillon.
Yes, sir. This is basically a housekeeping item authorizing the Regional Commission to apply for those 5311 Rural Transportation Program funds to continue operating the regional transit system on behalf of Lowndes County and its local participating municipalities. Again, attached is a copy of that resolution authorizing you to sign that necessary document. Staff recommends adopting the resolution and again, participating in the 5311 Regional Transit System.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Dillon? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7D is the acceptance of infrastructure for an additional .29 miles of Hunt Road. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir. Hunt Road is located in the eastern portion of Lowndes County and currently intersects with Interperimeter Road. The Valdosta Lowndes County Development Authority developed an additional .29 miles of road for industrial growth. They have asked the county to accept that additional .29 miles. All construction inspections and paperwork are complete.
Okay. All right, any questions for Mr. McLeod? All right, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt a resolution for the .29 miles of infrastructure.
Okay, we have a motion to adopt the resolution accepting the .29 miles of Hunt Road. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7E is the Georgia Power Utility Easement located at 5333 Mill Store Road. Mr. Stalvey.
Yes, sir. Georgia Power needs to run a new underground power feed to the Francis Lake office and lift station. In order to complete this project, Georgia Power has provided documentation for a utility easement, and staff recommends granting the utility easement to Georgia Power and authorizing the chairman to sign the document.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Stalvey? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Do we have a motion to approve? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Agenda item 7F is the purchase of the VSU South Campus property. Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We've discussed this at a previous meeting. We continue to go through the steps that are required for you all to get to the consideration that you are tonight regarding the purchase of this property. Not only is it, does it entail the 4.728 acre tract as for the purchase price of $2,156,000. It also includes a leaseback to the university for 6,654 square feet of space on the first floor in Building B for them to continue the counseling services there. The location that they are moving that mission to received some damage during Hurricane Helene, so it will probably be mid to late summer before they vacate the building. But we will be able to start cleaning and painting and doing some other light construction in other areas to prepare for the Board of Elections. Long-term, if we were to liquidate the property on Savannah Avenue, we have a location to relocate the Planning Commission. We have most recently used that room as a hide from the wind shelter during Hurricane Helene, so there's a lot of great multi-purpose opportunity for that room there. And then we do believe that we may also have to relocate some state agencies out of existing facilities, and this building will provide space for that as well.
All right, any questions for Ms. Dukes?
Oh, yes. In regards to the rental agreement, I noticed it says that they pay us $1 a month, but also it has something to the effect that we'll pay the electricity, water, and so forth, all the other bills.
That's right.
What number can we put on that, as well as where would it come from?
As far as the
Monthly.
utilities go?
Yeah, what are they spending monthly, I guess? on it
That
now?
utility spend, Chad, did we get that from Tracy yet? No, we have not received the utility spend yet. I think that it will be less than what we're currently spending as far as the 325 West Savannah Avenue property for that area that the Board of Elections will be going into. We'll be on a minimal spend for the rest of the building. I think that we're balancing that with the purchase price as far as the Board of Regents agreeing to sell this for the appraised value versus the open market. There was a fair amount of give and take there.
I guess I was just wondering, I know monthly utilities with a facility such as that can be a
That's right.
sizable amount, and
Yeah.
the money has to come from somewhere.
That's right.
And I guess, so are we saying we're going to go ahead and move them from Savannah, so we won't have to pay utilities at Savannah, or are we going?
So the Board of Health is moving out of Savannah Avenue, and then the Board of Elections will be totally vacating the Oak Street property. So we will decide, what you all would like to do with the Savannah Street property. I think that there's a developer that may be interested there, and then the Board of Elections property would be the same. Staff's got some options to talk to you about at the spring retreat, or we could liquidate Oak Street as well if you all chose to do that.
Okay. Appreciate it. I've seen
You
some
have
of,
options left on the two pieces of property. Certainly, the need is there from the standpoint of this BSU property. As we all know, the biggest need right now, from what I see, is certainly for the Board of Elections. There's more and more emphasis on early voting, and that facility over there where they're at now is just really, it's not really conducive to a lot of traffic through it. There's only one point of egress and ingress in there, as you know. It can get traffic backed up on Oak Street and so forth and so on. They're also out of space from a square footage standpoint. If you've been in there, they've got storage stuff stacked up to the ceilings. So, it's just, they've outgrown their space, and it's time for a new space.
well, I totally agree. I was just interested in the operational costs
And this is
currently.
just a great opportunity for a piece of property that's got plenty of ample property, plenty of square footage that will give us some future uses as well, and I just think it's a great opportunity. That's me. All right, any other questions? All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve and authorize you to sign or execute the tax purchase sale agreement and the tax lease agreement.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. Thank you, Commissioners. Agenda item 8A is the LMIG Supplemental Local Road Assistance, known as LRA, and this is for the 2024 restriping bids. Mr. McLeod.
Yes, sir, thank you. The commission approved the 2024 LRA application at the May 28th regular session meeting. Part of that LRA money was going to be used for restriping. This bid includes restriping 32 linear miles of existing paved county roads. The work includes restriping the center line, edge line, stop bars, pavement markings, and installing raised pavement markers. Bids were received and opened on October 29th, and we received 2 bids. Peak Pavement Marking LLC, $111,223.17, and Mid-State Construction and Striping, $159,684.75.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. McLeod? Okay, hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve Peak Paving as the low bidder and authorize you to sign the contract.
Okay, we have a motion to approve Peak Paving as the low bidder and authorize the chairman to sign the contract. Are there any other, do I have a second? Second. Have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, agenda item 8B is the bid for 60 SCBA cylinders for the fire department. Ms. Black?
Yes, sir, thank you. Last year, the fire department determined that there were approximately 180 SCBA cylinders, which would be expiring within a 3-year time period, and started on a plan to replace 60 of those per year. This is the second phase of that plan. The low bid for that came in from Municipal Emergency Service in the amount of $85,097.40.
What was the bid for last year, Stephanie? Do you remember?
I believe it was $79,000.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the vote. All in favor signify by aye. Aye. Any opposed, like sign. Hearing none, the motion carries. All right, agenda 9, county manager's report, Ms. Dukes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On Saturday, we had more than 1,000 people that were downtown for the Girls on the Run's fall event. Commissioner Evans led the charge there with all the girl power that she could bring, so we appreciate her being there. The girls always like to see an elected official at the finish line, so she helped us hand out medals. We missed everyone else who couldn't make it. I know this weekend was really busy, but it was a fantastic example of what happens when we're able to all come together with a very credible organization that's doing good work in our community. The city of Valdosta handled part of the logistics. We hosted the location and had volunteers. Some of our staff who's here tonight helped with that, but I think that we may have started a new tradition with that fall race. It went very well, and I just am grateful for you all allowing us the opportunity to use that facility on a Saturday for that. We will be hosting a Leadership Lounge Wrap-Up Day at the Emergency Operations Center on Thursday. On Friday, staff will be attending a workforce housing workshop, which is the beginning of the One Valdosta Lounge housing study with Georgia Tech. So we will actually start that process on Friday. If you remember, we had a kickoff several months ago. They have continued to gather the information that they needed for the steering committee workshop that we're having this week. So that is all off to the races on November the 19th. Leadership Lounge Youth will be here for their local government day. If you all are interested in being part of that, let me know, and I'll let you know the times. Also, we will be hosting South Georgia Leads at the historic courthouse, and that's an opportunity for you as well. Then on November the 21st, One Valdosta Lounge will be having a College and Career Academy Steering Committee meeting. We've talked about the College and Career Academy and the benefits that it could have to workforce development. So that project is still in motion under the umbrella of OVL. Also on November the 21st at 4 p.m. at the historic courthouse, we will be celebrating Judge Cowart and his tremendous career with his retirement ceremony. Also, we will be publishing a date to our citizens of December 1st for that to be the final day for everyone to target getting their debris to the curb. Knowing that everyone is not going to have it to the curb by December 1st, that's okay. There's some folks that have so many trees down that they need what's currently there to be cleared so that they can add more to it. So we will still continue to make multiple passes across the county until all of that is picked up, but we needed to put a date on the calendar to keep people mindful that there will be an end to all of that pickup. So as we heard from Samaritan's Purse, they are still working. We have an agreement with those large volunteer organizations that if we get into January and the haulers have really pared down and they're still helping people clear their property and debris needs to be removed, we have a system that works between Ashley's office and Robin's office at Public Works that will get all of those picked up on a case-by-case basis. So we're not going to leave anyone out to fend for themselves where that is concerned. We do have issues right now with tree surgeons, mostly out-of-town tree surgeons that are still here, and they're just clearing people's property and adding. Some of you may drive through across the county and see green debris that's being added to those piles. Certainly that did not come down during Hurricane Helene. Those areas are very hard to police. We're getting some calls from citizens that are watching, and they are policing, and they're not happy about green debris being put on the curb. I don't think that any of us look forward to that total being added to in that way. But keep in mind, until later on in December, we're still being reimbursed at 100%. So the other part of that is there are ordinances that other local governments in our community have that target if you're a tree surgeon or you're in that type of business and you are paid to cut down a tree on someone's property, then you must haul that off with you. So right now, we don't have an ordinance in place to enforce. If we start catching up with those folks, I know Commissioner Weisenbaker has received several of those calls. Robin and I have both been to Lake Park following up on some of those over the last couple of weeks. So we will be bringing that draft ordinance to you in the very near future, as in before the end of the year, near future, for your consideration if you all choose to give us that tool from an enforcement standpoint. And if not, we can keep moving forward the way that we are now. But did want to let you know that that's out there. It's something that the tree surgeons have actually requested, because the ones who are from here know that the expectation is for them to haul that debris off. And they're some of our locals that are getting a little irritated with the out-of-town folks just cutting, taking the money and leaving on the curb. And rightly so. I certainly understand that. So we'll be bringing that ordinance to you all for your consideration. If you have any input while we're still in the drafting process of that, if you please let me know, then we'll make sure that all that gets incorporated. That concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Ms. Dukes? All right, let me take a moment. I normally do it at the beginning of the meeting, and we had a few other little adjustments, and I failed to do it. But you mentioned the Lounge Youth Leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I believe we have some folks here. So if you would, please stand and be recognized.
That's right.
There you go. Thank y'all. You came to the very best meeting of the whole year. This has been a full gamut of all of it.
I think, Mr. Chairman, these two may deserve extra applause because they had some classmates with them that I don't think were able to hang in for the long haul. So whenever we turn in their attendance, we'll make sure that these two have a star by their names because they did stay for the entire meeting.
Awesome. All right, we'll now move into our citizens wishing to be heard. Our first citizen is Mr. Burton Fletcher. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, esteemed commissioners and staff. Burton Fletcher, 3533 Cherry Creek Road, Valdosta, Georgia, 31605. I have rather lighthearted comments this evening. Wish to make some heartfelt congratulations in my remarks. First, I'd like to applaud Michael Smith's election to the board. His knowledge and fresh ideas promise to contribute constructive considerations to our ongoing deliberations. I'd like to wish and convey my best wishes to Commissioner Greiner. It's worth noting that Abraham Lincoln faced several failures before his eventual success as president. Thus, I encourage you to remain committed to serving our community, and we certainly have a lot of openings in animal rescue for you, so please keep that in mind if you will. I congratulate Assemblyman Dexter Sharper on his recent victory. His continued advocacy for individuals experiencing homelessness and those in need is most commendable and necessary. I congratulate Chairman Slaughter on an impressive reelection to a fourth term. Reflecting on Lincoln's legacy, it is inspiring to remember how Lincoln included talented rivals in his cabinet, fostering collaboration and progress. Moreover, I would like to highlight Kelly Saxon as an exceptional community leader. Her impressive community support demonstrated by 17,453 votes speaks volumes about her capability and our community's trust in her. I have not informed her that I would be making these remarks this evening. I would just say that let's keep in mind what President Lincoln did, and by bringing in his opponents, he was quite successful in his term of office. Next, I would like to acknowledge Ms. Jessica Gaines at the historic Lowndes County Courthouse. She is remarkable. She gave me a tour recently, and along with Jessica Culpepper, and it was an excellent tour. For anybody who have not taken that tour, I encourage them to do so. I think Ms. Gaines represents the very best of public service, so my hat's off to her. She just did a great job, and when she gave her presentation to the group of attorneys the other week on Thursday and Friday, or I guess her comments were on Thursday, I believe. It was very informative. In fact, that case that she brought forward, I think is something we ought to consider memorializing in our county in some significant way about the 1905 hanging that occurred in our community. I think that's a case that we ought to consider. Some people may criticize the amount of money that was spent on the rehabilitation of the historic courthouse. I believe that's going to go down as a hallmark of your service, and I believe ultimately the public will recognize that as a success that I believe it to be. Finally, Veterans Day at Lowndes High School. Chairman Slaughter and Commissioner DeMarcus spoke there. It was a wonderful event, and I thank you for your participation, and I'd encourage everyone to attend in the future. It was just a remarkable event. I now understand why my property taxes on the portion of schools is so high. And finally, I'd like to thank Dr. DeMarcus Marshall for his service as a Marine, though I tease him about his decision to abandon that path for the U.S. Army. Regardless, he remains one of my Marine brothers, and I look forward to connecting with him at the American Legion and throughout our vibrant community. He's a very fine fellow. So I thank all of you. I gave all of you a challenge coin this evening, reflecting on Veterans Day yesterday and my own service many years ago. I can't believe it was like 54 years ago, but I thank all of you. Yesterday was a very special day.
Amen.
Thank you.
All right, our next speaker is Ms. Janice Strickland. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record, please.
Hello,
How are you?
I'm Janice Strickland, 2105 Penn Oak Circle, Valdosta, Georgia, 31602. You need anything else?
That'll do it.
I came to speak about Longleaf community, the
Okay.
flooding that we've had for a long time. Adelia and Debbie and the last one we had, Helene. And then on last Wednesday night, we had unexpected flooding. And I got 10 inches of water in every room of my house.
Okay, let me, and I don't mean, and I normally wouldn't interrupt, but there's something here I think that needs to be clarified for your benefit, for the commissioner's benefit, and everyone. Penn Oak circle is actually in the city of Valdosta.
So we shouldn't be here.
Ma'am?
We shouldn't be here?
Well, I'm not gonna say you shouldn't be here, you're always welcome. I'm just saying to resolve your issues of what you're concerned about, I believe that you're gonna need to be at the city. For verification, can we verify, I'm pretty sure Pin Oak and Longleaf is in the city of Valdosta.
It is, but we was told to come here.
Who told you to come here?
The city.
The city?
No, but we have been to the city more than once.
Okay. Well,
And I'm sure they're taking us seriously, but not seriously.
yes, ma'am.
And
I
recently, it
understand
was
that.
like 2 or 3 people just going, but our whole community plans to show up.
Okay. Well, my point is that we don't really have the authority
Oh,
to
I
do
understand.
anything on those properties or on those streets because those are actually city streets.
Right.
They're not, they're in the county, but they're not county roads.
Okay, I understand.
Okay.
So we will take this to the city,
Yes, ma'am.
and we'll be better prepared next
There
time.
you go. There you go. All right.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
I do want to put in a plug for the Board of Elections, though. I work there part-time, and we really need room, and we need a new parking lot.
Well, good. We hope it's coming.
Y'all did a great job.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, where is this community she's talking about?
Pin Oak, I think it's right over there off of, actually right down here up behind the old Beverly Theater. You go down Leon and Pin Oak turns off of Leon, if I remember correctly. Yeah, Ballston Park down there, close to all that.
Okay,
Yeah. So it's really a city issue.
yeah.
Yeah. We do have some others, but I think they were on the same subject matter, so if anybody wants to speak, you're welcome, but I think we got it. Okay. All right. Commissioners, any other business?
Just want to commend everyone for Veterans Day as well as the election office and the volunteers that participated. They did a great job.
Certainly. Also, want to recognize Mr. Michael Smith, District 5 Commissioner-elect. Welcome. Look forward to working with you, Michael. We're going to have to get you trained up a little bit, but I'm sure you're trainable, so we'll work through it.
Mr.
Looking
Chairman.
forward to the
sorry.
opportunity.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. If I could add, I've received several comments regarding Commissioner Marshall's remarks at the Flag Day ceremony for the Valdosta City School System. So I was not able to make that because we had some conflicts and we were dividing and conquering there. But Commissioner Marshall, I hope that it's recorded and we can find it because I've had several people randomly call me and tell me what a fantastic job you did there. So thank you for representing us all so well. It was very noticed.
Good.
Thank you.
There, he did an excellent job. I've asked for a copy of the speech.
Oh, well, that's what we need.
Well, I hate to admit, but you know how you take something on your phone and you want to have it to use, but you can't see the screen?
Yes.
So you have to improvise?
Yes.
Well, it was mainly improvised.
Well, then it was from the
what I do all the
heart.
time.
It was
I
from the
improvise all the
heart.
time.
That's good. Good stuff.
Again, great. And again, I know that you're willing, anytime I was unavailable for that event, you stepped up as vice chair, and again, you've been a great vice chair, and I appreciate that. You did a great job with it. All right. If no other questions or comments, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
To adjourn.
We are adjourned.